Welcome back to another episode of the Non-Standard Podcast, and I just want to thank y'all for keeping this fire going. The way you can keep it lit and bright is doing some pretty simple things. All you got to do is copy, share, paste this link to your friends, your family, your coworkers, someone special around you that just wants to improve. That's why I'm doing this. I am doing this to help you guys realize being a better leader is not that hard. There are a lot of traits out there that you can learn, you can adapt, you can take, you can borrow, but you have to have them available and in your toolbox. And that's what I try to provide here. In this episode, we provide quite a bit of them. My buddy Matt Coltrin joins me. He is a mentor of mine and a great friend. He was the previous Chief of Dyess Air Force Base, one of the fastest to E9, also now works for Amazon and has started his own company. So he is not settling down. And some of the things we talk about is one, his motto to get through things: work hard, be tough, be humble. That right there is already worth the grain of salt in this. He also talks about being an expert at your trait. We talk about confidence. We talk about challenging the status quo. We talk about Arnold. Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the book he talks about is The Hidden Potential book by Adam Grant. I will leave his link and the book's link below, but you guys know the drill. Stand by and get ready to be amazed. And keep adding those leadership traits so you can become a better leader for the next day. What is up, everyone? Thanks for jumping into this episode. Just as you listen to the intro, I call him Chief Coltrin from my time with him. He's taken on a new role now. I'll let him talk about that a little bit as we get diving in here. But just like I said before, sir, we're going to talk about the 3 H's, which I procured from another person who got asked them in an interview to start a question. I was like, that's a great way to start a conversation with someone if you don't know them. The 3 H's is actually for the new wing commander right now. He actually interviewed a friend of mine, and that's how we started the interview. He was like, I have 3 H's, hometown, a couple heroes, and hardship, just get the juices flowing. So that being said, sir, I think you're in your hometown or close to it right now. Let's hear it.
Hey, man, my name is Matt, and man, I'm so proud to be Matt again. It's freaking great. I am not on a shaving profile, and it don't matter, baby. My hometown is actually Lake Charles, Louisiana. That's where I was born and raised, and so I'm not too far away from it. But I am still far from home. But home's where you make it. There's an old song that says, "Where I lay my hat is my home." And we're very happy and blessed to live now in Homewood, Alabama. And so I never thought I'd land here, but it's a beautiful area, great schools, amazing people. And my current job, where I work at Amazon as a Pathways operations manager, that's what's landed me here doing that. But we don't have any intention on ever moving in or out of Amazon because we actually love it that much.
Yeah, that's what I've sort of gathered throughout my wife and I's journey. Like when people ask me, where are you from? Like I still, deep down, I love NorCal. That's just where I grew up. I lived there till I was 18. Then I went to Washington. I lived there for 8 years. That was like my second home where I sort of grew up, enlisted and did that. And then my wife and I went to Florida, and we've been in Texas now 9 years. And so we call home where our kids have grown up, because our kids are Texans just like through and through. And so, obviously we'll probably talk about it throughout, but the military, for those of you listening who aren't familiar with the military, you usually move every 3 to 4 years if you're lucky. Sometimes you can get those places for a long time, but you're always up and moving. And so your home will change quite a bit. The few people I've had on before, they've been military brats or grew up like that, and they talk about, hey, it's been cool to go to all these places, because then when you are ready to settle down, you have sort of this plethora of places to go choose. You get to pick where you want home to be for the rest of your life. So,
it's funny, Manny, you say that. One of the hardest decisions we made was like when you get close to retiring and they're like, okay, where do we go? And you're just like, I think I want to go home. And they're like, but do you really? And so so what made it easy for us, and I'll tell you, like when you get to that point in your life, is like write down your priorities, right? And say like, of course, family is always going to be a priority, but like for us, like schools were a very big priority. Obviously, like job opportunities are going to be a priority. So like you're always going to have trade-offs. And so that we knew like if we were going to be closer to home, then there weren't going to be as many opportunities for jobs that we really were excited about.
Yeah.
We'll just say that. And then also the school systems back where we're from, they're not as good. And so it's like, yeah, we're close to family, but we're really sacrificing some other things. And so we're like, okay, well, remember, it's not like a black or white issue either. Like we can get close. So like I can drive home in one day. So like, man, that's perfect. Right. So keep that in mind. I think what worked it out for us is, like I said, write down your priorities and then let that take you where you need to go. So some people are like, I have to be here. And it's like, okay, cool. It's easier for you. Now you just got to find a job, you know? But for like us, we really didn't have like a I have to be here type thing. So it actually makes it incredibly more difficult.
That's perfect. Yeah. What heroes do you have? Did you grow up with any heroes? I don't know. Like, obviously, you're a sports guy too. So I grew up with sports heroes. Jason Kidd was one of my idols growing up. He just showed me the passion for sports and basketball. Obviously, I grew up watching Kobe. So I was more of a sports guy. I didn't know a lot about military until I really joined. But who'd you look up to?
Dude, do you know who like my favorite football player ever is?
Ever? No.
You're not gonna like. Clearly,
Is
I'm
it
a
Drew
Saints
Brees?
fan. So like, of course, I love Drew Brees, but like, he's not my favorite football player ever because like when I was in high school and middle school, Drew Brees hadn't
No.
become Drew Brees yet, and
Yep.
so my favorite Saint of all time was Joe Horn. And Joe Horn, and so you
Horn. You
might know
said Horn,
this.
right? The wide receiver?
Yeah. And so
Gotcha.
he's known as the guy on the Saints who went to the field goal post and took the cell phone out and called his mom back when you weren't allowed to. And so what made Joe Horn so freaking awesome to me was he was an undersized receiver, but he was tough as nails and he was fantastic and he was unstoppable. And he was he was like an all pro every year. And although during that time in the league, you weren't allowed to do touchdown celebrations, he'd do them anyway because he knew the fans liked it. But then whenever he would address it, like in the post game interviews, he would always be super professional about it. And he'd say like, he'd always be like, well, Jeff, I really believe that the fans really enjoy it, and I don't think that the rules are. So he was just always, man. I was like, dude, Joe Horn. He signs his jerseys. God bless. I'm like, dude, that dude is just fantastic. So I always loved Joe Horn. And then also I always loved Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I
Oh
was like an
man,
Arnold
yeah.
Schwarzenegger fan child. I
Okay.
loved. I have all of his movies. I used to have them at one point all on DVD. And there's this YouTube clip called Six Steps to Success by Arnold
Yep.
Schwarzenegger.
He just
It was
made a book about it. I'm listening to it
well,
on my Spotify actually right now. I ran to it this morning.
yeah. He goes, "Don't break the law, but break the rules. No one has ever been a true trailblazer without breaking the rules." And it's like, dude, like everything that he said in that was like everything I did my entire life. It was just like challenge the status quo. When somebody says you can't do something, then you do it anyway, because then you can say you're the first person to do it. And like literally, like so that was taken from like believe it was at Harvard. He was the honorary speaker at some college graduation. And so he literally had like a very long monologue where he gave an entire speech. They broke it down into like a shorter thing, but dude, I thought like he like just absolutely nailed at least what I would consider to be like my inner inspirational theme, like I have a lot of different like thought processes in which I solve problems and I see the world. But like when it comes to like fighting and when it comes to like inspiration and when it comes to doing, like dude, that sums it up perfectly. Is that those six steps to success? I like love it.
Man, and I so um they did just release a documentary on Arnold. I don't know if you watched it on Netflix.
Yeah, I did.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He shows like I got goosebumps right now, like thinking about his journey because he epitomizes not settling. Because like you take somebody who wants to be successful in their life at one thing. Arnold chose to be successful at three things, different times of his
Yeah.
life, and not even be good when he started those things. Like he never once settled with his bodybuilding career and was just like, I did it. He's like, what else can I do? And, he goes into acting, then he goes into politics, and you're just like, dude, that mindset it's very rare, very rare.
And what's important to learn is that a lot of people, like their worst enemy is truly themselves. Once like doubt creeps in for like 1 second into your mind, then you're already weaker than one of your competitors. But conversely, if you have this extreme confidence in yourself, but not like a egotistical or like fanatical, like what's the word I'm looking for, like lack of humility type
Yep.
confidence. But like if you're just like, no, like I truly believe that like I am going to be um I am going to be the outcome of my actions and I control it and I'm going to go after it with all I have and I know 90% of the time that that's going to be enough, bro. Like and that's what I did in the Air Force. Like I refused to let people to tell me. So like when I was in the Air Force, dude, and I don't give a shit anymore. I was the fastest promoted E9 in the Air Force. There was like I think there was one person who had a higher line number than me for E8, and there was one person who had a higher line number than me for E9, which I don't know how that happened, but it was like a 0.5, so it was like they were out of cycle or something weird, right? And then when I got picked up for command chief, I was the youngest chief to get picked up for command chief. And every rank I went up for, everyone would always tell me, hey, man, you can't do it. Hey, man, blah, 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 blah. Hey, when I tested for first sergeant, the first time, I was a first-time tester for senior. Dude, everybody was like, dude, why are you wasting your time studying, dude? It's impossible. What are you doing? It's impossible. Like, da-da-da-da. I scored a 92 on my test. And I can't remember what my board score was, but it was good because I had deployed and did a bunch of other stuff. But I made it by like, I remember I made senior by like 0.2 or something like that. Like it was like that close. I started doing the math, I'm like, oh, dude, but it was like truly unbelievable. But if I would have listened to everyone, I would have never made it by 0.2. That little ounce of doubt would have prohibited me from at least studying hard enough to make it by 0.2. And that one little ounce of doubt, if I would have not believed in myself to try and would have listened to people, would have been that one thing I didn't read or that one thing I didn't do. And so, like, like it's all about controlling your own destiny. Whenever excuses are nothing, excuse me. When people make excuses, all that is protecting their egos, man. Like, and I've seen it over and over and over again. And the worst thing that we do as leaders is we think that we are like, not being meanie pants, or we think that we're we're thinking we're trying to be approachable and be nice, but
Hey.
we're also losing the ability to like hold people accountable for things that are 100% within their control. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, if you could teach a mouse how to run through a maze, and every time that mouse can get that piece of cheese a little bit faster, then dude, like, read a book, listen to a video, answer some questions, figure it out.
Yeah, I think what came to mind is I was listening to a random podcast and the guy was talking about so many people don't do things because they think of what somebody else is going to say. And he's like, listen to that. You are not doing something because you think somebody's going to say something, even though they haven't even physically said it. So you've already put into your mind something that's not even real or has happened to stop you from doing something. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy to think
Well,
about. Like how many people won't even do something because of the perception or thinking somebody's physically, like they haven't even said it yet.
well, I think what that person may be referring to is like what you see a lot like in leadership, like in like subordinate leaders of leaders, like when you have like insecure leaders who are like excited about getting promoted, and instead of just making a decision based off of what their character and their values are, or what they know to be the organization's values, and just executing and pushing out and leading, they 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 try to run their decision making matrix through the filter of what would my boss want, which
Yeah.
is it's impossible to lead that way,
Mm-hmm.
because you can never predict what somebody else wants in every situation, because that person doesn't know all the variables like you do, and you don't know what that person's matrix is for making decisions. And so leaders who try to operate that way by framing their decisions on what they think other people will always be unsuccessful. And so one
Yeah.
thing that I'll tell you in the military is I've worked with a lot of generals and I've worked with a lot of senior leaders. And I've worked with good and great commanders. All of the best commanders do not care if subordinate commanders disagree with them, as long as the subordinate commanders are reasonable, as long as the subordinate commanders have a logical and analytical explanation of the who, what, why, and where. Like, like what I have found is that the more mature, your senior, people are, that they understand because they've typically been there, that like anybody can be a Monday morning quarterback on ESPN and be like, oh, you shouldn't have called it on that play. Well, you know what? We thought it was a good call at the time, but you know what? Sometimes you just don't. You just don't make the play, right? Um and so what I'll tell you is like, when you're a leader, you have to lead with conviction. You have to know what your values are. You have to know, and they have to be aligned with your organization's values. And you just have to go out there and freaking lead, man. Leading is courageous. Leading is tough, and you just got to do it, man. Like, people who lead the other way, it's just impossible, and you're gonna fail.
Nice. All right. Man, that's perfect. It's good just to get juices going and just talk, because I know and I don't know, we have never. So for those of you who don't know, one of our first interactions, Chief and I, was, hey, this is a crazy story in the military, obviously, to interact through rucking and being able to go to the Netherlands for a 10-day TDY, for a staff ride, learning about the history of the battle garden over there, and then a ruck march for 3 to 4 days. But that was like our first interaction, and there I didn't get to physically like learn from you at the time. It was more just observation, because it was new for all of us. We were all in this out of our own cycle place, doing this ruck march for 80 miles in 3 days. So let's talk about that a little bit. I want to hear your experience of that, what you thought of it, and tie in some leadership stuff there, because there was a lot of different leadership for me there, going into a place as the highest ranking per se, right? And then not knowing what to do and feeling so stressed out
Are
the
you
whole
sure you
time.
were the highest ranking? What
I
was
was. I was the cat. Yeah.
no? What was the other Captain Terminator's rank?
Galco was lower than me.
Just kidding. Old Terminator Galco. Hope he's doing good. Um. Anywho, uh, he's a great man. That was a good dude. Always wearing cowboy hats and uniforms. I don't care anymore. Anyway, hey, I'll tell you, I thought that was such an incredible experience, man. What I just so glad I went, and I'm also so glad I brought my back brace. Um, and and the massage gun. Those are critical. But man, what a great group of airmen. and what an amazing experience. And I'll tell you, I was so impressed by you, which you'll always be one of my favorites because you were one of the more athletic ones on the team, um, and and so for those of you who don't know, we had like TAC Ps, we had some operators on the team, and like we also had some very average people. We had a very diverse group of people, and like day one and day two, the more athletic people really wanted to push it up. And I knew that wasn't a good idea. So I've done a lot of endurance events, and I just knew that probably wasn't a good idea. But there were some people trying to push it up. But independent of that, knowing that Manny was like probably the most athletic one, except for No, who's like an Olympian. Manny always stayed in the back. Manny never ran out in front. Manny never wanted to be, Manny always made sure he was in the back, and he always made sure everybody was in front of him. And that was just perfect. And the leader, that's leadership, man. That's freaking leadership. And what's funny is we had a bunch of different officers out there. And at first, I think a lot of people needed to be like in the formation to the front because they were really self-concerned. Like, man, I need y'all to push me. You know what I mean? But the leader goes to the back, and like that was an opportunity of like leading from the front, from the back. It's like, hey, I'm gonna be okay. Like, I'm strong. I'm not gonna fall behind, and I'm not gonna get lost. And I'm gonna catch you if you fall back, and I'm gonna make sure everyone stays in front of me because it's my job to make sure that you guys are good. And by the way, the leader never accepts the glory for the team. The leader always hands off the wins, and then he owns or she owns the defeat. And like you never wanted to be like the first person in the front. You were always in the back. And I tell you what, that just always stuck with me, dude. And I just like, dude, that dude, man, awesome, bro. And then go ahead.
I was gonna say that was a time in my career where I was able to adapt leadership to the scenario because I think a lot of times in the military we're taught, there's like a specific way to lead and you have to lead that way all the time wherever you go. And so this opportunity allowed me, like you said, to physically lead from the rear. And what was that like? And so I had to take that opportunity and be like, hey, this is my chance, like what is leading from the rear? So I have this experience. And I could have easily taken my ego and been to the one holding the guide on in the front for all the pictures, and when we go into the towns, the first one there for our group. But at the same time, I knew for me, this experience was a lot more for those that are first term airmen that were going overseas for the first time, work with Joint Coalition, doing these rucks. And we had the leaders already there. That's what was great about it. We had other leaders that were doing those jobs like you and the TACP guys and No with the DJ, and Galco with great pace stuff. Like all those tasks were taken care of. I didn't have to worry. It was almost pretty, it was interesting to lead from the rear with how easy it was because I knew all those other gaps were filled throughout our team. And that's just what we established through all our training too. Dude, dog, you are killing me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was a great time. And what's funny is, moral to the story is like, hey man, y'all gotta listen to the old guy. Like every now and again, the old guy knows what the hell he's talking about. Because I remember on the last day, like there were a lot of broke people, and and if we had to go another day, I know we would not have had as high of a success rate. And I'm fairly certain some of those people would have been the special operators that would not have made it. But you know who would have made it? The freaking old man with the old man. Pretty soon. Because like you gotta do things sometimes smartly, and working harder isn't always the right answer. Like it's like, dude, you gotta just be smart, and you gotta be like, you gotta see it through. And so anyway, but dude, what an incredible opportunity. I'll never forget the night remember we went to the 5-day festival, and I just knew that'd be a
Oh
terrible
yeah.
idea. I did it anyway. I mean, it was an amazing idea because I just remember thinking this is just so amazing. But walking the next day was despicable. And but man, what an amazing experience! Just fantastic. And then we all caught
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. It's
So I remember
expected.
Colonel Kramer. So Colonel Kramer told me before I left. He said, Chief, if you go, you're not allowed to get hurt. And I go, sir, I don't think you can tell me that. Like, I think, like if I get hurt, I get hurt. He goes, if you get hurt, like you're in trouble. Or like he was being dead serious about it. He's like, if you get hurt, like that's it, man.
Go play.
And so when I got back, I'm like, hey, Colonel Kramer, I'm back. Hey, thank you so much. I'm like, hey, good news, not hurt. What about COVID?
But I'm out for another 2 weeks.
See you like in 2 weeks. Dude, I know like half of us got COVID, and then like later the other half got it. Was terrible.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into this because I think we've already hit a couple of these already. So, like I said before, the reason I like to do this podcast is it helps me develop my leadership philosophy as I progress and take this opportunity to change the way leaders present how they want to lead. Currently in the Air Force, as captains go through major, they go through ACSC, which is sort of like our major school to become better leaders. One of the classes is a leadership course. I really loved it because it's right at the time when I was starting to focus on my leadership. And one of the questions is you have to explain your philosophy to the new commander that you're about to replace for your squadron. And it's like you have 2 minutes, go. And I was like, cool. So I made one, and it's based off these 4 steps in this order. Very simple but effective. Leading by example in all we do. To be selfless, you have to be selfish. Build relationships based off trust and care. Challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. And then my goal is to hopefully inspire people to work off a leadership philosophy instead of squadron priorities when they take charge. I'm not a huge fan of specific priorities for a squadron to change or a leader to implement change because it's if you make the people better, overall the community and the squadron should get better. So if I can make everybody around me better, they will make that change themselves without me pointing those changes. But that's sort of like this weird tangent I've been thinking about as I just hit on my leadership philosophy. Like if I were to take over a squadron, I would not give priorities. I would give this leadership philosophy to show my airmen how to become better people. They would go out and go forth and conquer and then make change on their own based off of my 4th step, challenge the road in front of you, which hopefully inspires them to change the things that are broken that a priority would probably cover. So what do you think?
So I'm curious to hear about to be selfless, you have to be selfish.
Yeah.
And then I want to readdress your thing about fixing the people and then not having to give priorities. Because I want to really hit those two. I think the other two are like spot on. I mean, you have to. And so, like, yeah, you got to lead by example. That's critical. If you don't, then you're not going to have any credibility. You're not going to have any respect. I also think that, like, it doesn't have to be a priority. But, like, what I want everyone to know when I walk in the building, that our relationship is built on character and trust. Number one, period, 1,000%. Good, bad, and different. So, like, when you are dealing with me, you are getting nothing but 100% unadulterated facts, and it is going to be candid, straight from the hip. It might be good information, it might be bad information, but you always know that I'm consistent and that I'm fair and that everybody gets it the exact same way. I play no favorites, and I love you all because we are all family and we're brought together. But like accountability is for good things and bad things, but like honesty is the most important thing to me. Integrity is the most important thing to me. I am only loyal to doing the right thing. And sometimes good people do bad things. And like I will respect you. I will treat everyone with dignity and respect, and I love all of you. And like I don't expect anyone here to do anything crazy, right? But like, dude, honesty and integrity and character is the basis of everything we do here. And so,
Nice.
but tell me about
To be selfless, you have to be
selfish.
selfish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
I
it
think I know
comes
where you're
down
going with
to
that.
yeah. I, it basically ties right after leading by example because a lot of people understand to take care of others, you have to take care of yourself. That's sort of what it comes down to. So if I want people to understand that I'm pushing them to work on, doing things differently or working long hours or taking care of themselves, I have to be doing it myself. It's very similar to lead by example, but lead by example is more
No,
when it
no,
comes
no.
like
So listen.
tasks and duties. Yeah.
So I totally get it. That's what I figured. I'm gonna tell
Yeah.
you though, as a commander and as a leader, you need to find, even though it's, what do they call that, an alliteration or something weird where it sounds good, like selfless, selfish. I would not say that because like you're gonna have people that are gonna be very turned off where my commander is saying you need to be selfish. Don't do it, dude. Like, not a good word to be
Gotcha.
associated
Yeah.
with at all, even if it's like close, get rid of it. Because even if you're in the best intent, like, remember, like, anti-leadership sentiment is cool these days, right? Like even if you're awesome, man, like, do you think if there's a kid sitting in the theater listening to you as a brand new commander, right? You walk up and you're the new commander coming in, and there's a kid sitting there with all his buddies, and you go, "Yeah, and my second leadership principle is to be selfless, you have to be selfish." And he looks at his buddies. Do you think he will be cooler if he says, "Hey, y'all, we need to be selfless so we need to take care of ourselves so we can be selfless," and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, high five." Or you think he'd be like, "Hey, this dude said we need to be selfish. I'm gonna be selfish." Like,
Gotcha.
dude,
Yeah.
don't give them anything. Like, here's the thing.
When you're like, yeah,
Just
so
I don't
yeah.
I don't think that word is something you want to be associated with. I think, like, a lot of people say put your gas mask on first. A lot of people say, like,
Yeah.
you know, I just think we can work on that maybe later together to, like, make that better, to articulate what you wanted to say in your own way and still make it pop. But I don't think you want to be associated with the word selfish. That's no
That's
go.
good. Yeah.
And then
Um,
what was the second part we talked about was the
you wanted me to emphasize why I'm not fond of the priorities, but more of the philosophy as I take, if I were to take command.
um
Um, so like if I were not to give priorities, but to give my philosophy,
here's the thing,
yeah,
man. So um so I agree with you that, like, dude, I have evidence that, like, at Amazon, that where you can do nothing other than just take care of people and then metrics follow. Like, go look on my LinkedIn page and see my performance at Amazon as an area manager. Like, I'm the lowest experienced area manager. I've had zero, and I went in there and just started talking to people. And for the last 5 months, I've absolutely dominated production and quality at Amazon. like, and like, I did teach myself how to do the technical functions.
yeah,
And people are like, "What, dude? What did you do? Like, are you cheating? Are you do?" I'm like, "Bro, like, it's leadership." And, like, a lot of civilians don't believe in leadership. They talk about leadership. So, like and what you don't understand, the military is like, the military really values leadership. Like,
hmm
dude, even senior airmen, you're going ALS. Like, dude, they don't do that in the civilian world, bro. Like, when you go from, like, level to level to level, like, the only thing you get in leadership is what your boss did, and then you just start doing that. And then not until really you go to, like, an executive level do they ever really send you to, like, maybe like a school or something like that. It
yeah,
depends on what organization you're in, but bottom line is there's not a lot of leadership development in corporate, man. And so, um these soft skills, these leadership skills,
yeah,
if you treat people with dignity and respect, here's the thing: if you threaten people, if they're going to do the bare minimum and nothing more. If you inspire people, you give them the resources, you give them the tools, you give them the training, you show them compassion and grace where they can make some mistakes, and you say, "Hey, man, that's cool. Let me just show you how to do it again." be patient and give them opportunities to fail and get better, bro, they will take the mountain for you, man. Like, and so like it's all about heart, it's all about mind, it's all about souls. But the only thing that I'll tell you that I differ with you is as you get to more operational and strategic roles, there's got to be somebody who like coalesces all the great ideas, right? And so like if not, you're going to have a million different leaders who are trying to solve a million different problems, who are going in like a million different directions. And they're all doing great things, and they all are solving, sometimes they're even solving the same problem but doing it in different ways. And so like as a commander, like your job is to set priorities based off of mission needs.
Okay.
And also you are going to be in a position to where you're going to be able to see trends that other people may not be able to see. Right? So like you're going to be able to see like the forest versus the trees, where some people are going to only be able to see what's going on like in their neck of the woods. And so you're going to be like, hey man, we have a really big issue with X. And then like some people might be like, man, I'm not seeing it. Be like, no, bro, like I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. And so what's funny is as you go up higher in command and higher levels of leadership, you know, you get privy to more data. And with that data, you'll be able to make, you know, more decisions, and you'll see the need for prioritization and goal setting, because there's only so much Schlitz, you know, in a day. And like, dude, one bite at a time is how you eat a doggone elephant, right? You go after what you can. So
that's good. I wonder when they teach us that.
The elephant, you just
like
figure it out.
when because you've seen it, you know, taking the leap for an officer to a squadron command is a huge leap in their career. Is that have you seen? I don't know if you've ever talked to squadron commanders or anything like that. Like, what do they get taught before? Is it just like, hey, congrats, you've made the rank, whatever, you've done this. Here's your position. You can choose the OSS at Dyess Air Force Base. And then when they get there, they just go, here's my priorities. Like, I don't. It's weird.
So I think y'all go to like y'all go to that school down at Maxwell first, right? What's it called? Like OC? No, it's what's it called? Oh, Jesus, it's called
I don't know, like prior to command.
Yeah, they send like captains there. It's called.
Well, we have SOS, which is like our first one.
Is it okay? Squadron Officer School, is that what that is? And then what's the next one?
ACSC.
Air ACSC.
College. Yeah, because that's the one I'm doing right now online.
Okay, you can do so like ACSC. Yeah. So that's the one you have to do before command. Supposedly that's supposed to prepare you for it. But what's funny is I was so my first squadron superintendent job was in an EWS, an electronic warfare squadron. And my commander was an F-15 pilot. And so like he basically went from OPSO to like commander. And he was like, all right, boys, let's go. I'm the commander now. And dude, he was freaking awesome. And he was a people person. But dude, he didn't know shit. You know, like he thought he knew.
Yeah.
But like he's just making it up as he goes along. And so like I think, you know, sometimes it's about having a good mentor, sometimes about having like, you know, like a good chief, but like sometimes it's about like, hey man, like we just gonna figure this shit out. Like, you know, like we're gonna just so what I did was I'm gonna tell you a quick story. So when I was I was actually a senior at the time, because they don't have chiefs in EWS squadrons. So he was a brand new squadron commander, and I had a book that was at the time General Goldfein wrote it. It was called he wrote it back when he was like in Air War College or something, when he was a colonel.
Okay.
And it was like commanding an Air Force squadron. I believe that's what it was called, right? He wrote a little book. You should get one. You should read it. It's awesome. It's a timeless classic, right? And I had one on my desk. And And I gave it to him. I said, "Hey man, look, I have this." And I always read it because there's a chapter in there about the enlisted corps, and I always wanted to know like what my officer counterparts expected from me. But I think this is a great book for you to read, so you can be in command and you can know what expectations you should have over me, and blah blah blah. And at the time he was like, yeah, okay, cool. It probably hit the desk. He didn't give a crap, but he was awesome. Like, dude, this dude, he's Tom Moore. He was a test pilot. He's retired now. He's down in Montgomery, and we're like best friends. But anyway, so fast forward, dude's spectacular. He ends up going and being an instructor at ACSC later. And he falls in love with like all the Air Force blue, so he's got like an Air Force tattoo now and all this kind of stuff. Well, General Goldfein is down there at ACSC doing a tour, and old Colonel Moore's like, "Hey man, you know what? My doggone chief gave me your book when it was my first command, and he told me to read it to set me up for success." So General Goldfein signed me a book and was like, "Hey chief, thank you so much. We need more people like you. Great job taking care of old Colonel Moore." Da, 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 da. And then Colonel Moore sent it to me in the mail. That's what kind of classy guy that dude is. Like,
Wow.
just fantastic. Yeah. So I got a signed book down in my man cave. I should have showed it to you. From General Goldfein. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool. Nice. Yeah, and I think my level right now is still, and this is why I really
Yeah, what
appreciated you on the call, because you have seen like the big picture, right? Like what like what works, what doesn't at that level, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, from what I've seen at my level, how to get the best version.
Yeah. Yeah, I've worked at the MAGCOM. I've done the command shirt there, and I did command chief there for like 7 months. So, and I was at AFDW too. That's like, that place is crazy. And so, and then, I've done it. I've done a lot, man. And so I know a lot about the Air Force. I don't think I'm too dated to where I'm not relatable.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I think it's an incredible institution. Um, and But I do think I could help illustrate like why some things would be more successful than others, and why maybe you and others might have some blind spots about some theories of what would
Yeah.
work and what wouldn't work. But here's the thing, man. Like, you gotta, like, and that's the thing too. Like, here's what I'm gonna tell you. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's all about being original. And one thing that I wanted to impress upon you today is and one thing that I've learned and become a lot more comfortable with as I've gotten older is like, never be afraid to be like sitting in a chair by yourself. Like, when you walk into a room, you're going to notice that humans are social animals, period. Right? And we've learned over time that we need each other to survive, yada, yada. And it's built into our instinctual being that we need to be in groups, and we need to be accepted, to thrive and survive and to reproduce. But also, like, a sign of very low security is like the need to like always be in those groups, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is like, if you're a leader, right, and you want to be different and you want to make a change, then you can't just work harder and be better at the same shit everyone else is doing. So, like, Snoop Dogg said a couple weeks ago, he said, "Man," he goes, all these people in the game right now, they're all just, trying to do the same thing. He said, "I am culture." He goes, "I am my own style." And he goes, "People need to become experts at themselves, and they need to become experts at their own superpower, and and they need to unleash that instead of trying to put themselves in this box that other people want them to be in. And so, like, when I say you need to be comfortable sitting by yourself, sometimes it's uncomfortable when you walk in a room and you have the answer in your mind and you turn the lights on and all the cockroaches run. And you're like, I'm sorry, but like, I didn't put the cockroaches there. I just knew how to turn on the light, like people don't like that, but it's like, well, dude, like, why'd you invite me to the room? Like, and so what I challenge you to do is, and what I challenge anybody who sees this is like, stop doing things the exact same way. Stop putting yourself in a box. When somebody says, hey, give me your 3 things, be like, no, I don't do it that way. Like I do, like I do it, this is how I develop leadership within my units. I do it from day one. I don't do pump-up speeches. What I do is I catch them off the bus, and the first time I see them, I say, hey, you're joining a high-performing team, period. That's the first words out of my mouth that I say to every single person who joins my unit. I say, hey, welcome. You're joining a high-performing team, and welcome to the family. They hear those 2 things. That I make sure that every single person, the first time I meet them, those are the first 2 things out of my damn mouth. I set the tone immediately.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's just something like and I don't know, like, that might not be a good example, but like, don't be afraid to be different, because when you're different, then guess what? And I'm not saying you're doing this purposely because you want like attention, but like, we all wear camouflage and we all blend in, but like, the leader will stand above. And sometimes the leader is the one who's sitting by himself, and everybody's like, man, what makes, and they're not looking at you because they're like, man, that dude's picking his nose and he's a weirdo. They're actually looking at you and be like, man, how is that guy such a badass? Like, I wonder if he'd let me sit by him. But like, dude, like, nobody sits by him because he's just such a badass. Whereas somebody insecure might be sitting there and be like, man, I'm sitting by myself. I wonder, dude, did that fart that I did in my truck come with me? Because I don't see anybody hit. You know what I mean? So, dude, just live, be yourself. People see character. They feel character. They see genuine spirit. And like, words are cheap. It's what you do. Actions control behaviors. Humans are inspired by behaviors. And so, like, leadership is easy if your heart's in the right place, and then the performance, exactly like you said, will follow. Period. Doc.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I look at the next part, which is, ask you some of your traits, and I'm going to tell you, I already wrote down some that you already mentioned are yours. Honesty, integrity, and loyalty. I know if I have that in here somewhere, like, that's one of your extra traits, that you probably talk about. Like, besides those 4 that I mentioned for my philosophy, you'd bring that one to the table. It sort of goes into relationships and care, but it's like, for you, it's like, it's probably a top 2. And then you just mentioned being expert at yourself. I like that little line to add to mine. I'm trying to think if I have it somewhere else. But what other, I guess, traits have you developed that stood out to you throughout your career that are somebody can listen to and be like, I like that one. I'll put it in my pocket. I didn't think of it before, but it's a good one to have in case I need it.
I think now that I'm done and I reflect, I used to have like a little saying: work hard, be tough, stay humble. And I thought that was what got me there. Work hard, be tough, stay humble. Like, man, you put in the hours. You do what you got to do. I'm convinced that you're going to be successful. Be tough. Like, life is an infinite game. Life is all about not getting too excited about the highs and understanding that they're only temporary and that you never arrive. and that you never become defeated by the lows. And what you'll find is that in life, the lows, although are painful in the moment, are just as temporary as the highs. And oftentimes are great learning opportunities in order for us to improve. Oh, and by the way, they are absolutely inevitable. And without those lows, we would never, ever, ever be able to truly understand and feel what the highs feel like.
Yeah.
And the people who are the most successful in life are the ones who can balance and who can navigate the highs and the lows consistently over time and not be too excited about the highs and not become defeated by the lows and just be tough. So work hard, be tough, and then stay humble. You know, and you know, when I say stay humble, it doesn't mean not be confident. There's a huge difference between being confident and being cocky. Like a confident person is somebody who can walk in a meeting, who can answer tough questions, who can ask tough questions, and who can correct somebody on the spot whenever they're saying absolute BS. That's not cocky, and we've gotten confused about what being cocky is. Like, man, I'm just so fly, man, dust off my shoulder, you know, like, dude, that is like unprofessional behavior. It's not unprofessional behavior to say like that is incorrect. That is just quite simply inaccurate information, and I need you to re-review that and whatever. You know, but being humble is also like giving the team credit for the work they did. Yeah. And understanding that, like in the Air Force, like very rarely does anyone do anything alone. And there's far too many people who read their EPRs and read their 1206s or whatever y'all do now, and they are just in love with their own press clippings, and they think they are special. And quite frankly, man, it's like they might just be average. So, like, just be humble, man. Come to work hard, be cool. And I felt like that was a good recipe for me. But what I'll tell you, as I've gotten older, I have now really valued like trust and integrity. And not that I haven't always valued it, yeah, but like it's like the absolute bedrock for any relationship, particularly in organizations. And yeah. I want to break down trust for you real quick. Trust has three components. Okay. The first part of trust is what you're very used to in the Air Force, which is integrity. Do you do the things that you say you're going to do? So like if you tell somebody that you're going to do something for them, do you do it? And by the way, this is like the three things I'm telling you is how everyone grades each other on whether I can trust somebody, okay? So do I think you have integrity? Do you do the things that you say you're going to do for me? Do you say that you do the things that you do for others? Or do you just talk trash and lie? So the second part of trust is credibility. Are you good at what you do? So like no person will take their car to a mechanic who has 1 star on Google reviews. So being good at what you do is equally as important as doing what you can do. And so like, okay, you're a manager, or okay, you're an NCO, but are you a good NCO? It equally matters. Are you a good captain? It equally matters to the amount of trust that I'm going to place in you. And the third part of trust is the most important, and it's the oftentimes most often overlooked part of trust. And it's every time somebody looks at you, they think one of two things. They say, is this person trying to hurt me, or is this person trying to help me? Or did I say help me the first time? Is this person trying to Is
You're
this
good.
person trying to harm me or is this person trying to help me? Everybody thinks that subconsciously.
Yeah. Like, is it for
And
them
so
or me?
and so they think that subconsciously about the person that they are interacting with. And so they might be thinking it overtly, but everyone thinks it internally and subconsciously. And so every time you interact with a person, you're either building stock in trust or you're losing stock in trust. And so like when you have when you have like a person look at you and you're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they're like, they say they think that person wants to harm me. They don't even know it, but in the back of their mind, they don't trust you. They're like, "That's a leader. Leaders only want to write us up. Leaders are only out to get us. Leaders are only bad." So you have to establish integrity. I do the things that I say I'm going to do by actually effing doing them. Because so many leaders have let these people down in the past because they got all these fucking sayings on the walls and it's painted in murals all around the building and they sit in on their ass in their office all day. And then number 2, credibility. Are you actually good at it? You say PT's important, but your gut's hanging over your belt, and everybody knows that the senior airman brings you out to do your PT test once a month and ain't nobody around. And I'm kind of being kind of like, kind of whatever. But the bottom line is, and you ain't got to be perfect at everything, but the best way to connect with somebody is? Like, do you know like the easiest way to connect with somebody, particularly in positions of power or superior and inferior relationships of like power and non-power? Is being vulnerable.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, relate to him on the struggles or something. Yeah.
Being vulnerable. Hey, man, like, hey, I really suck at this. Can you help me? Like, this is like, dude, or hey, I messed this up and I need your help. Melt. Oh my God, this person in power asked me, a lowly person that they don't even have, it's vulnerability is the easiest way to connect with somebody whenever you show them your weakness. And so it's like you don't even have to be vulnerable about like super crazy stuff or work stuff, but it's like when you connect with somebody about like, things that are weaknesses, it's the easiest way to connect with somebody. It makes you human. It makes you not trying to be perfect. And so for what it's worth, man, that's kind of it. And I believe that when you make the connection, when you have trust, whenever you have culture, yeah, bro, you can do anything. Like, it's like unleash the Kraken, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple things came to mind when you were going through those 3. The last one that stood out to me when you're talking about hurt or help is the intent behind what you're saying. Is your intent truthful? Is it honest? Because they can pick up on that so quick. And if you can bring that honesty, bring that sincerity in everything you're doing, like you said, it already puts you that trust above. You're not coming off as hurt. You're coming off as help. So
Do
being
people think you're
intentful in
being
everything you say, like you can say, "Are you having a good day?" Or you can say, "Hey, man, how's everything going? Are you having a good day? Is there something I can help you with?" Like that. There's those different ways you could help with that. And, yeah,
and that's why like cheerleaders are only good for a little bit. Like you've got to know the tone of your people and you have to be able to like react to like what the tone and the pulse of your people are. You can't just go be a cheerleader and be like, man, I love that person so much. They always got so much energy. Like, no, you have to like know what's going on and what's the pulse and then go from there. But yeah, man, be genuine with your communication, not disingenuous.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because people know, and people
They
don't want to
yeah.
act like some clown up there, doing whatever.
They can tell. Yep. Nice. What book do you got for us? I know you said you're reading one and listening one.
Oh yeah, my book right now.
Yep.
All right. So the book that I'm currently reading is Hidden Potential: The Science of Achieving Greater Things by Adam Grant. And dude, I don't know if you know, but Adam Grant is like my spirit animal. I love everything he writes, dude. Um, like I have very rarely found a concept or a an idea that he's written about that I don't 100% agree with. And his latest book is killer, man. It's pretty good.
Nice, perfect. I love that because I read two type of books throughout my, I guess, year. I read the ones you're talking about, like Hidden Potential, that are books I can take things from, I can put them in my life and take action on them, like the tips and tricks books. And then the one I brought today is good because it's the other side, just like learning about people, right? A simple one on Napoleon. It's just called The Concise Biography. I heard about it from another podcast called Founders, who does like book reviews for biographies, and he recommends this one because it's just Napoleon's life so much shorter than a lot of his biographies. And it's already taught me some things that I've learned about Napoleon. One of the things he did that you talked about is he cared for his people. He made them. He appreciated them. He cared for them. He was with them on the front lines. He made them feel special. And that's probably the one thing a lot of people talk about Napoleon is how he was able to get these people to do these things at that time of the revolution. And there's that story of him going on the front line between two sides and literally standing there and say, "Stop what you're doing or shoot me." And nobody shot him because they cared for him. They knew he was there for them. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Um, but yeah, that's the book I brought. Was
That's
the
awesome.
Napoleon book. So yeah,
I didn't know that. Man, I might have to check that one out. That's pretty. I didn't know Napoleon was that kind of leader or that interesting of a story.
yeah, it's nice. Only like 200 something pages, so pretty easy read about his whole career. Like I say, his whole career, but when he started when he got in the military through the French Revolution, and oh man, that's my first time learning about the French Revolution. I'm just like blown away by the Wild West, I guess, sort of style they had going on during that time. Before the Wild West, I guess, but it was around the same time. But yeah.
Nice.
um, well, yeah. So, any last final shots, parts? Obviously, you just left us with the great one on the trust 3 times factor. But
Yeah. No, I love you guys. I miss you so much. I wish you nothing but future successes. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out, man. I'm I'm your wingman for life. But I really enjoy being Matt too. So
I bet.
you let me know if you ever need anything or have any advice, and I'm here for you, buddy. Here for if you need anything.
Sounds good. Well, that'll conclude the podcast. Just stay on for a little bit longer after. We'll chat. But thank you. And then I'll just, if anybody wants to reach out to you, is there anywhere in particular you want them to reach out to, or just like email you, or I don't know, snail mail? What do you want?
Yeah, that's fine. They can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm
Okay,
pretty easy to
I'll put that
find.
in there. So
Matthew Coltrin, and then they could just shoot me a message if they like. Also, like, yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. Let's just
yeah,
funnel it there and go from there. You
perfect.
can also
All
hit
right.
me up at rollcajun.com. It's my business, cooking booty. You can
Hey, I
email
got
me
to get some.
boudin
I'll
at
tell you a funny
rollcajun.com.
story about my wife trying to pronounce the word boudin when we drove through Louisiana. She had no idea about the word. It was hilarious. We went to this we went to this small gas station driving through Florida. Or no, we were going to New Orleans at the time for March Madness. And we stopped at this gas station and they had like the Louisiana food there, like the stuff you read and you're like, I don't even know what that says, but it looks good. And I was like, babe, you gotta get you some boudin. And she's like, what? Oh, dude, it was hilarious. Listen, oh man, I'll when we meet next time, I'll have her tell you about it.
My buddy, remember I was telling you about Colonel Moore earlier?
Yeah.
So they have this stuff called andouille sausage. You probably know andouille sausage,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
He used to call it andouille, like andouille sausage. He's like, what's with this andouille sausage or something weird? He used to call it something crazy.
uh, well, all right. Sounds good. Let me stop the recording really quick.